This is AP Statistics Quideo 4. For the basic question, the question reads, the Census Bureau reports that households spend an average of 31% of their total spending on housing. A home builders association in Cleveland believes that this average is lower in their area. They interviewed a sample of 40 households in Cleveland metropolitan area to learn what percent of their spending goes towards housing. Take mu to be the mean percent of spending devoted to housing among all Cleveland households. We want to test the hypothesis. Okay, so we have the ho is mu equals 31%, and then the ha is mu is less than 31%, and the population standard deviation is 9.6%. So for part A, the question is asking what is the sampling distribution of the mean percent x with the sample spends on housing if the null hypothesis is true. Sketch the density curve of the sampling distribution. Okay, so for that first one, the standard deviation is equal to the standard deviation x is equal to standard deviation over the square root of n, which is 9.6 over 40, because n is equal to 40, so over the square root of 40, and that's going to get you 1.518. So then, with all of our values in mind, we have n parentheses 31% parentheses, I can't talk today, comma 1.518%. And then to sketch the density curve, we have 31% in the middle, since that is our average, and then we have different values ranging from 26.446% and 35.554%, with the middle being at 31% and it being a fairly normal standard distribution. Question B asks, suppose that the study finds x bar equals 30.2% for the 40 households in the sample. Mark this point on the axis in your sketch, then suppose the study result is x bar equals 27.6%. Mark this point on your sketch. Referring to your sketch, explain in a simple language why one result is good evidence that average Cleveland spending on housing is less than 31%, whereas the other result is not. Okay? The lower percentage lies out in the low tail of the curve, because it's going to be around this area, which you can see down here. I drew the dots for it, while 30.2% is fairly close to the middle. Assuming ho is true, observing a value like 30.2% would be surprising, but 27.6% is unlikely, and therefore provides evidence against the hypothesis. And then for question C, it says, shade the area under the curve that gives the p-value for the result of x bar equals 30.2%. So then we just shade the values from 30.2 down, and that's where you get this in our curve. Okay, for the advanced question, it reads, Pew Research in November 2011 polled a random sample of 799 U.S. teens about internet use. 49% of those teens reported that they had misrepresented their age online to gain access to websites and online services. Question A says, find the margin of error for this poll if we want 95% confidence in our estimate of the percent of American teens who have misrepresented their age online. So for part A, we are trying to find the 95% confidence interval, which means we need the z-score of 1.96. So then to solve it, we would plug it into the equation. E equals z times p, square root of p, 1 minus p over n. And so we're going to get the equation E equals 1.96, because that is our z, is times the square root of 0.49 times 1 minus 0.49 over 799, because that is the n value, or the sample size, and that is going to give us 0.035. So for question B, it says explain what the margin of error means in context. We can be 95% confident that the true proportion of teens admitted to misrepresenting their age online lies between 0.49 minus E equals 0.49 minus 0.035 equals 0.455 and 0.525. So it's 95% confident that it is between these two values. the margin of error, For question C, if we only need to be 90% confident, what will the margin of error be larger or smaller? Explain. The margin of error would be smaller. Being willing to accept a lower confidence level means we can pin down the mean proportion more closely. If E is smaller, the interval is narrower. And now for the AP question. Each person in a random sample of 1,026 adults in the United States was asked the following question. Based on what you know about Social Security system today, what would you like Congress and the President to do during this next year? The response choices and the percentages selecting them are shown below. Completely overhaul the system, 19%. Make some major changes, 39%. Make some minor adjustments, 30%. Leave the system the way it is now, 11%. And no opinion was 1%. So A asks to find a 95% confidence interview for the proportion of all United States adults who would respond, make some major changes to the question. Give an interpretation of the confidence interval and give an interpretation of the confidence level. So for that one, there is a large sample confidence interval for a population proportion because the n is greater than or equal to 20n, so that is going to be n to the p. N of p is 1,026 times 0.39 equals 400.14. So the 95% confidence interval, to find that, would be through this equation right here, and through plugging in these values, we get the confidence level to be 36,002 to 0.41971. So we can be 95% confident that it falls within these two numbers. We are 95% confident that the proportion of all U.S. adults who would respond make some changes in between 0.36 and 0.42. And question B says, an advocate for leaving the system as it is now commented, based on the poll, only 39% of adults in the sample responded that they want some major changes made to the system, while 41% responded that they only want minor changes or no changes at all. Therefore, we should not change the system. Explain why this statement, while technically correct, is misleading. And this statement is misleading because in addition to the 39% who wanted major change, 19% wanted a complete overhaul. These combined makes 58% of the sample, which is over half, so it is a misleading statement. Thank you.